Hello, good morning, and good night, and welcome to Djkronz Plays. I'm Djkronz, and we're back with another super special redstone tutorial for you all. And in this guide, we're going to be covering 4 different automated redstone shops that are completely customizable for the payment and payout. But first, I want to give a little backstory as to why I'm posting this video even though I haven't posted videos in a little while. And well, it all started about 3 months ago when I was playing in my creative world, messing with making some redstone shops. I made a few that worked decent, but they were nowhere near perfect. So I thought there has to be a better way to do this. So then I did what most people do when they don't know what they're doing and looked it up on YouTube. Once there, I saw a lot of people making similar shops to the ones I already made, but the major problem was they could not be customized for the payment and payout. And so, I kept looking. Until I stumbled onto a video by Crafty Masterman on his Any Ratio Redstone shop, and I thought, oh perfect, just what I need. So, I tried building them, not thinking about Java Redstone versus Bedrock Redstone, ugh. And to probably no one's surprise, it didn't work on Bedrock. But in the video, Crafty mentions how he was basically competing with another couple YouTubers who go by RexxStone and T2 Studios to make the best automated redstone shop. So after hours of messing with Crafty's and being unable to get it to work, I decided to check out RexxStone and T2 Studios tutorial and build it in my world. But once again, probably to no one's surprise, it didn't work on Bedrock. Ugh. But I wasn't going to give up so easy. So over the next couple days, I made 6 variations of RexxStone and T2 shops, with the first 5 being complete busts. But on the 6th version, I had finally done it and made a 100% working any ratio redstone shop on Bedrock Edition that also keeps all the exact same features that RexxStone and T2 implemented, such as sound effects, processing multiple payments, and having an out-of-stock shop lock. So I then went to the comments of RexxStone video and said, "Great video, but sadly, this version doesn't work on Bedrock Edition. But with a few small changes I made it work 100% reliably on Bedrock Edition, etc." And after that, a couple months went by while I was building up my realm, and since then I've made 54 of these redstone shops as a premium shopping mall at my realm's hub. But while I was working on my realm, a few weeks ago, someone commented on my comment on RexxStone's video by the name of Fendi-andpeeta requesting me to make a tutorial on it, and so I said that I eventually would, but I'm currently building up my realm, etc., etc. And so, here I am, and here it is, Fendi-andpeeta, the unbreakable, any ratio, fully customizable automated redstone shop designed by me, Djkronz. But I can't just say that without giving a massive shout out to RexxStone and T2 Studios for the amazing video they did explaining how everything works, and without them, this build would not have been possible, as it's almost identical to theirs, but with a few small tweaks to make it possible on Bedrock. So really guys, you should definitely check out their videos as well, and thank them for making this possible. And I'll make sure to link their channels and the original video in the description below. But anyways, that's enough talking and backstory, as I'm sure you guys don't really care. So, let's get to showing off the shops and explaining how they work, because there's a lot to go over. So as I said before, there are 4 builds we're going to cover in this guide, but I think we may have to split this up into multiple parts depending on how long each shop takes us. And why is there 4 builds, you may ask? It's simply because pistons take 2 game ticks to extend, so therefore the shop I made cannot do a single item payment or a single item payout. But anything higher than that you can do without issues. So 90% of the time, the first shop will be perfect for whatever you need. And so, that's why there's 3 more builds I made for you all, to fix that issue. All of them keep the same look at the front, as you can see behind me there, and all of them have the exact same features. The first shop I will show you all how to build in today's tutorial can do a payment anywhere from 2 to 63 items and a payout of 2 to 320 items, or 5 stacks max. The second one will take a multiple item payment and give a single item payout. The third will take a single item payment and give a multiple item payout. And finally, the fourth one will handle a one-to-one item payment and payout. Meaning, with these 4 shops, you can literally sell anything you want for any price you want, as well as any payment item you want. So just for reference, let's quickly look at RexxStone and T2's version here on Bedrock, and then we'll start on mine. So, looking at RexxStone and T2's design, we can see that theirs takes up a 3 by 7 by 6 block high area, and we can also see these pistons right here shoving the redstone block back and forth constantly. And that alone breaks the entire shop and makes it so you cannot fill the stock or even set the item filter. And that's basically because, from what I can tell, their version relied pretty heavily on quasi-connectivity or bud powering. But I understood the whole mechanics behind the payment and payout in the fact that hoppers always transfer items at the exact same speed. So after that, it was basically just switch some things around, add a little redstone here, add a couple repeaters and comparators there, and after about 6 hours and multiple days of messing with timings and circuitry, I had finally done it, and here it is. The unbreakable, any ratio, redstone shop on Minecraft Bedrock Edition, made by yours truly. And if you look at mine compared to RexxStone and T2's, mine is 4 blocks taller and 1 block longer on the back. But other than that, the footprint of the build stays basically the same, being 3 wide across the front. So how does the shop work? Well, at the front of it, you should notice the item frame, the redstone lamp, a barrel underneath it, and a barrel 2 spaces down from that right in the center of our shop. The item frame is simply to display what is being sold and how much each purchase costs. The redstone lamp is there to let the customer know if the shop has stock or not, and if the redstone lamp is on, it has stock, but if the lamp is off, it has nothing. The barrel underneath the redstone lamp is where customers will place their payment and also receive the items they purchase. Whenever a customer makes a purchase, they must place the correct payment into the barrel, and once they do, the system will place the items they purchased into the barrel and at the same time lock the shop from making any more purchases until the system fully resets. And as soon as it does reset, it will then begin processing the next payment automatically. Meaning, you can make multiple purchases whenever you want, and the system will never break. And the barrel 2 spaces down from that is our payment collection barrel, where the payment item goes to be collected by the shop owner. The hopper directly beneath the barrel and redstone lamp is our item filter hopper that determines what item you want the payment to be. And in this hopper, you can see we have 4 swords or non-stackable items, and then some diamonds. But the payment item can be anything you want, and it doesn't have to be 59 items like you see here. Once you set the shop up a bit more, the number of items left in this hopper will change depending on what you set your payment to be. The lime green circuit is also part of the item filter, and is also what activates everything in the shop. The barrel attached to the lime green circuit here has 1 sword in it, with the comparator and repeater pointing into the other comparator coming off of our item filter hopper to basically only allow a signal strength of 15 to pass through, which means the item filter has to completely fill up before it activates, and that is how we detect our payment. The light blue circuit and hopper clock on the right side is what determines how many items you want your payment to be. And as I said before, it can be any number between 2 to 63 items. So just place them in the hopper underneath the redstone block here, and it's all set. But do not place more than 63 items here. If you do, your item filter will drain completely and the system will break. Next, the purple circuit and hopper clock above that is actually what determines the amount of items we want our payout to be, or the amount of items the player receives. And also, as I said before, here's where you can place any amount of items you want in the hopper below the redstone block, and it can be anywhere from 2 items to 5 stacks of items. And once that's done, it's all set other than adding in your stock. The blue circuit on the left side is what locks the shop whenever it's in use, so another purchase can't be made until the system fully resets. And this is to ensure you always receive the correct payment and customers always receive the correct payout. The yellow circuit in the middle is what releases the payment item from the item filter hopper to the payment collection barrel at the front, and also plays our note block sound to let players know that their payment was accepted. The magenta circuit is what releases our payout items from the barrel next to it, and that barrel is also where we place our shop stock. And last but definitely not least, the orange circuit. And this is what locks the shop whenever the shop runs out of stock, so that no one else can try to make a purchase and have their diamonds stolen when there's nothing to pay for. So with all that out of the way, hopefully you all understand how to use and configure the shops to your preference, and hopefully my talking wasn't too boring. But anyways, why don't we get on to the tutorial for this thing?
For this build, you will need 46 solid blocks of any type like smooth stone or cobblestone, 5 glass blocks, 3 stairs, 1 slab, 22 redstone dust, 10 hoppers, 8 comparators, 7 repeaters, 5 redstone torches, 5 observers, 5 pistons, 5 non-stackable items or wooden swords, 4 barrels, 4 chests, 2 blocks of redstone, 1 redstone lamp, 1 target block, 1 dropper, 1 wax copper bulb, 1 item frame, 1 emerald block, and 1 note block. And if you don't want to do the emerald block and note block, then make sure to bring 1 more solid block in place of the emerald block.
So as you can see, the build takes up an 8 by 3 by 10 block area, and the floor sits 4 blocks off the ground in line with the 5th block up, or the diamond block here. All the redstone fits inside the quartz block areas, and the iron blocks represent the rest of the build area. The gold and netherite blocks are laid out so you can easily follow along and get the proper spacing for the build. And once again, your diamond block represents your floor level. So with that out of the way, let's begin. So from here, right before we start, I'm going to say, please pay attention. One missed block or item could mess up your whole system, and also for the purpose of this tutorial I'm going to be using colored wool blocks so you all can more easily follow along. But you don't have to use wool blocks and can use any solid blocks in their place. So first we are going to come to the bottom left corner of our 8 by 3 area, so right here, and pillar up by 5 temporary blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Place another temporary block coming out from the front of it. A barrel on top of the 5 block high pillar facing us. A redstone lamp on top of that barrel. And then break the temporary block you're standing on to drop back down. Next, at the right of our 5 block high pillar of temporary blocks, we are going to place 2 more temporary blocks at the block 1 space to the right and 1 space below our barrel, just like this. And 1 more temporary block below that, giving us this weird P shape. We then are going to remove the 5 block high pillar of temporary blocks, but leave the 2 on the side. And then, from the left side, place 2 hoppers underneath our barrel, and pointing into the 2 temporary blocks, just like this. Next, we are going to break the bottom temporary block and place a barrel in place of that block. So right there. Pillar up 4 temporary blocks in front of that barrel. So from right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Break the temporary block on top of the barrel, and then place 2 blocks behind the barrel with a third temporary block. Just like this. And we then are going to place a barrel on top of that temporary block we just placed. Open the barrel and place 1 sword or non-stackable item into it. Place a comparator coming off of that barrel, a repeater in front of the comparator. Come over, stand on top of this other barrel, crouch, jump and place a comparator there, facing to the right side of the build, and then remove the temporary blocks underneath the barrel with the sword in it, and the pillar of temporary blocks at the front of the build. And once you do that, you should have something looking like this. Next, we are going to come to the front right side of the barrel with the comparator on it, crouch, look up at the side of the barrel, and then place an observer facing upwards with the arrow or redstone dot pointing down. Next, we are going to place a block underneath our observer, a redstone torch on the back side of that block, a block above our redstone torch, pillar up by 3 blocks next to the observer, place a redstone dust on top of the observer, remove the temporary blocks, and bam! That's basically our whole activation circuit done right there. But now we got to get the hopper clocks in, so let's get the payment clock in and then we'll do the payout next. So now we are going to come behind the observer where we placed the redstone torch and place a block coming off of it, just like that, a temporary block directly on the ground behind it, a block on top of the temporary block, count 3 spaces further behind the temporary block, so 1, 2, 3, place another temporary block, pillar up with another block on top of that, place 1 more temporary block coming off the back of it, a block on top of that, and remove the temporary blocks. And once you do that, you should have something that looks like this. Next, we are going to place a temporary block on the ground and in between the line of blocks we just made. Hop on top of that block and place a comparator facing into the block with the redstone torch behind it. So right here. Turn around and place another comparator pointing into the other elevated block right there, just like that. We then are going to climb up the staircase we have and place a redstone dust on top of both the blocks the comparators are pointing into, just like this. And now we are going to place a piston coming off the powered redstone dust, pointing to the back of the build, and another piston coming off the unpowered redstone dust at the back of the build, facing to the front of the build, just like that. Next, we're going to place a redstone block between the 2 piston heads, just like this, and then 2 hoppers below that, pointing into each other, just like this. And once you do that, you can remove the temporary block we used to staircase up, and now you can add any item in these hoppers to determine how much you want your payment to be, just as long as it's not more than 63 items. So for the tutorial's purpose, I will place 13 cobblestone, and later when we activate the shop for the first time, it will automatically regulate the shop's price based on the amount of items in these hoppers. So next, we need to finish the item filter and have a way to lock it. So, swinging around the left side of the build, we are going to crouch and place a block coming off the hopper with the piston arm extended above it, a block coming off the block with the comparator on it, a block coming off the block that the comparator is pointed into, and a redstone torch on the front side of that block, just like that. Next, we're going to place a temporary block on the side of the block with the other redstone torch on it, a block below that, a target block on the other side of the temporary block below our item filter hopper, and then remove the temporary block in the middle. We then are going to place 1 redstone dust on the block beside the target block, come back to the left side, and at the 5th block back, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pillar up by 2 temporary blocks, place a repeater pointing into the block with the redstone torch on it, so right there, a redstone dust behind that repeater, and then break the 2 temporary blocks. And now is when you can add in your item filter as well as note blocks to test the payment system, and so far the build should look like this. Next, we're going to add in our note block and sound effects. So coming back around the left side of the build on the 5th block back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're going to pillar up by 3 temporary blocks this time, 1, 2, 3. Place an emerald block on top of the pillar blocks we just made, and then a note block on top of that. Right click or tap left trigger on the note block 19 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And then remove the pillar of temporary blocks we just made. Just like that. If you don't want sound effects though, you can simply remove the note block and switch the emerald block for a different solid block. It will be needed for later on. And now we need to set the item filter. So first, we need to have 4 non-stackable items and a stack plus 1 of whatever you want your payment item to be. We then are going to come to the front of the build and access the hopper above our target block, so right here, and place one of our payment item into this hopper. And we then are going to access the hopper directly above that, beneath the barrel. And in the last 4 slots of the hopper, we're going to place our non-stackable items. So right here, place all 4 of these in. And then your stack of payment item. And once you place your payment item in, the payment system should activate and regulate the shop's price if you have built everything correctly so far. So test it out a couple times and make sure you haven't missed anything. Moving on, we now need to set up the payout circuit. So coming back to the front of the build, we are going to pillar up 3 temporary blocks in front of our observer. 1, 2, 3. Climb up on the observer's face. Stand on top of the piston, turn around, and place an observer on the block to the left of the repeater facing to the front of the build. We then are going to place a dropper behind that observer, another observer facing that dropper, a block behind that observer, a piston between that block and our note block facing to the back of the build, a temporary block in front of that piston's face, an observer on top of that facing down at the temporary block, a redstone torch on top of the observer, and finally remove the temporary block underneath the observer's face. Next, we are going to come to the right side of the redstone torch on the back of the observer and place a block on top of the redstone block, a temporary block behind that, a block on top of that temporary block, remove the temporary block, turn around, place a block on top of the observer facing the front of the build with a comparator pointing into it, and a redstone dust on top of it. Turn around again and place another comparator facing into the other elevated block next to our observer, a redstone dust on top of that block, 2 hoppers pointing into each other in between our comparators like this, a piston next to our redstone torch and connecting to the redstone dust at the back of the build facing to the front of the build, another piston on the other redstone dust facing to the back of the build, and a redstone block between them, just like this. And now is when you can set the payout amount by placing any item from 2 items to 5 stacks of items as your payout amount in the hopper below the redstone block. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to place one stack of items, and once that's done, the payout system is all set. But we still need to add in the stock barrel and the circuitry to release that specific amount of item. So next, we are going to place a block on top of the piston next to the observer with the redstone torch on it. Crouch on top of that block and place a temporary block on top of the note block. A block on top of that, and remove the temporary block. After that, we are going to turn to the left, crouch, place two hoppers coming out from the barrel with the redstone lamp on top, hop across, place a barrel on top of the hopper that is closest to us, and this barrel is actually the stock barrel for the shop, but we can't fill it up just yet as there's nothing stopping the items from flowing out. So we then are going to crouch and place a comparator on the hopper behind that barrel pointing into our redstone lamp, turn around again and place one block in between the barrel and the blocks we placed before, just like this. We then are going to come back to the block next to our redstone torch and place a repeater pointing into the line of two blocks with our stock barrel on the end. We are then going to place a redstone torch on the block the repeater is pointing into, and finally two redstone dust on top of that block next to the torch and on top of the barrel, just like that. And this is what actually locks the hopper below so that your stock doesn't flow out unless someone has paid the correct amount. So this is what your shop should be looking like now. And with that, the payout system is complete, and you can add any items you want to sell to the barrel behind the redstone lamp, but one barrel isn't much space. So why don't we add a little extra storage to it? So, coming back over to our barrel behind the redstone lamp, we are going to crouch and place a hopper pointing into the side of it, a double chest on top of that hopper to the left, another hopper pointed into the right side of that chest, and another double chest on top of that hopper and over top of the other chest. And doing that, you could literally have as much storage as you realistically want by just adding more hoppers and chests going upward in the exact same way I just showed you. But just note that when you fill up the stock, you will have to refill the barrel and the chest every time your stock runs out, and the hopper underneath the chest is also currently locked until someone makes a purchase or the system has been activated. And also, when you do place your stock in, you need to make sure you place one of your payment item in this hopper directly beneath the barrel, and then the rest of your stock into this hopper, or into this barrel here, to make sure players get the correct payout. Now, all that's left is to add in the circuitry that locks the shop whenever someone makes a purchase, which allows it to reliably process multiple payments, and then finally add in the out-of-stock shop lock, so that no one can make a purchase if there's nothing to pay for, as well as just cover it up a bit. So next, we're going to drop back down to the front of the build and remove the pillar of temporary blocks we left near the beginning of the tutorial. And after that, we are going to come to the right side of the build and count 3 spaces in from the front. 1, 2, 3, and place a block. We then are going to count 1 space back, 1, and 1 space to the left. Place a block. Place a repeater on top of that block, pointing to the left side of the build. Place a temporary block behind that block. The repeater is on. A block on top of that, a redstone dust on the block beside that, and then remove the temporary block. Next, we are going to swing around the left side of the build and place a temporary block in front of the block the repeater is on, a block on top of that block, a block to the left of that temporary block, another temporary block to the left of that, with another block on top of it, a repeater pointed into that block, and then remove both temporary blocks, just like that. We then are going to climb up on the block the repeater is pointed into, crouch, and place a block on top of the repeater, and then an upper half slab coming off the hopper directly above our target block, just like that. Next, we're going to drop back down and place 3 more blocks coming out from the block the repeater is pointed into. So right here, 1, 2, 3. And on the last space of our 8x3 area, we're going to pillar up with 2 temporary blocks, 1, 2, and place a glass block on top of the pillar of temporary blocks. And now we're going to place a temporary block between the line of blocks we just made and the block with the comparator on it on the other side. So right here, a block on top of it, a block to the right of it, a repeater pointed into the block with the comparator next to it, and then remove the temporary block underneath, just like that. We then are going to place a temporary block in front of the glass block, another glass block on top of that temporary block, another temporary block behind that glass block, a glass block on top of that, one more temporary block in front of that, one more glass block on top of that, a block next to the observer with the redstone torch on it, place a repeater on that block connecting to the redstone dust and pointed to our glass block, and finally remove all 3 temporary blocks in between the glass blocks, as well as the pillar of temporary blocks underneath, just like that. Next, we're going to place redstone dust on all the blocks we just placed, like this. And once that's done, the shop's locking and reset system is fully set. But now, we need to add the out-of-stock shop lock. So to do that, we are going to pillar up 6 temporary blocks next to the redstone lamp, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and climb up on top of the chests. We then are going to crouch and place an observer facing down at the comparator pointed into the redstone lamp, a block on top of that observer, a wax copper bulb on top of that block, a temporary block to the right of that block, a block on top of the temporary block, one more block to the right of our temporary block, and remove the temporary block. Next, we're going to place a comparator on the last block we placed, pointing to the back of the build, a glass block on top of the redstone torch behind that, a redstone dust on top of the glass block, drop down on the piston below, and place a block on the back side of that redstone torch, with your last redstone dust going on top of that block, and your final redstone torch going on the side of that block. Just like that. And with that, the out-of-stock shop lock is now fully set up, and you can now fill up your stock whenever you wish. Also, please make sure the copper bulb is on whenever you add stock to the shop. If it's not, that's fine. All you have to do is power it with a button, and then the out-of-stock shop lock will be fixed. Now let's finish this thing off and give it a whirl, shall we? So, coming back down to the front of the build, we are going to remove the pillar of temporary blocks that we left on the left side of the build. And then after that, we are going to pillar up by 6 temporary blocks 2 spaces out from the front of the build. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Crouch on top of the pillar of blocks we just made and place 2 blocks coming out from the barrel. 1, 2. 2 more blocks on top of those. 1, 2. 3 blocks on top of those. 1, 2, 3. With your item frame and payout item in the item frame. 3 more blocks on top of those. 1, 2, 3. Pillar up by 1 more block. Place 3 more stairs on the very top here. And break the temporary block, or the pillar of temporary blocks you're standing on. And bam! Your unbreakable, fully customizable, any ratio redstone shop is now complete, and anyone can use it at any time. Now why don't we test it out, shall we? So as you can see, I have set my shop to sell 1 stack of emerald blocks for 13 diamonds by looking at the item frame here. I'll then place my payment of 13 diamonds into the barrel, and then the system will automatically start processing the payment. And as soon as the payment has been accepted, you will hear the note block play, and at the same time, the items you have purchased will start flowing into that same barrel, as y'all can see there. And we'll just wait around so y'all can see I get my exact 1 stack of emerald blocks for the 13 diamonds. And bam. But let's say I wanted to make multiple purchases at once. I can simply multiply the payment for however many stacks I want. So if I wanted 2 stacks, all I have to do is place in 26 diamonds into the barrel, and the system will then begin processing the payment once again. But this time, not only will all the same things that happened before happen again, but this time your other 13 diamonds will stay in the barrel until the system fully resets from processing the first purchase. And once it does reset, it will then automatically start processing the next payment, and you will receive your next stack of items.
So we'll just wait around a minute so you can see it takes a little minute to reset. And depending on how many items you have, it takes longer or shorter. But now you can see it's processing the next payment. And now we're receiving our next stack of emerald blocks. So we'll just wait around once again. I know it's kind of boring right here, but it's just to show the concept. It's fully there. It works 100%.
Bam, another 2 stacks right there. Perfectly on point. Nothing more, nothing less. And lastly, let's say I only had 12 diamonds and placed them in the barrel instead of the 13 it's supposed to be. Well, once again, the payment will automatically start draining out, but because it's not 13 diamonds and only 12, I will get nothing for it until that 13th diamond goes in. So be sure to do the math, or just make one purchase at a time. And with that, you should now know just about everything you need to know of how to build the shops, how they work, and how to configure them. Another couple things I just want to mention quick are, if you build multiple of these, make sure there is at least 1 block of space in between them so that they do not break like this, as y'all can see right here. And also, if you want to move the payment items out of the barrel and into a more central storage, there really is no way of cleanly doing it, but I still came up with one anyways, as you can see here. And to do this, we first need to break the payment barrel and comparator on top of it temporarily. Place a block where the barrel was, the comparator back on top of that block, pointing to the redstone dust, and a target block coming out to the front from the block the comparator is on. We then are going to place a dropper facing downward to the left of that target block. Grab the hopper above the other target block and point it into that dropper. A payment item will pop out of the hopper, so place it back in the other hopper above. And next we are going to place a temporary block underneath our dropper, just like this. 2 blocks coming out to the front from that. A temporary block on the end. A block on top of that. And 3 blocks next to our target block like this. Remove the temporary blocks. So right there and right there. Place a comparator coming off the dropper. A repeater pointing into the elevated block, and 3 pieces of redstone on the other side connected to our target block. And bam! You can now hook up water streams and send the payment into any other storage you wish, just like this here. But anyways guys, that's it for today's tutorial, and in the next tutorial we will cover the shop that handles a multiple item payment to give a single item payout. So stick around for that one. And I also just want to say one more time how great of a video RexxStone and T2 did on their build. And without them, this wouldn't have been possible. So for me to you, thank you RexxStone and T2. You guys rock, and as I said before, I will link their original videos and channels down in the description below if you guys want to check them out. And lastly, I put a lot of work into this video, so hopefully you all enjoyed it, and hopefully it was easy enough to follow along and understand. But until next time, this has been your friendly neighborhood DJ Djkronz, and we're out of here.